Newcastle United 3, Aston Villa 0. And Newcastle United were very close to doing triple 4-0 wins, but Bruno Guimarães' goal was ruled out. And to be honest, I think it was a little harsh, but I can see why it was ruled out. And yet again, another really good performance from Newcastle. These last 5-6 games, including the Carabao Cup game versus Brentford, they've really picked up in performance. And I think it's completely down to Tonali. I think he's got the midfield, he's got the control. Bruno's being more creative. The attackers are feeding off that. And I thought that Newcastle had a very, very good game. I think the worst part of Newcastle today was, again, actually them missing a few chances. I think Murphy could have scored. And I think long term, while Murphy has had a pretty decent season, Newcastle, I've said this so many times, they need a long-term right winger for that front three, and they probably need that long-term centre back because Shaw, I think, is really good, but he's aging, and then Botman's obviously injury prone. I think they're the two positions that Newcastle need to look at, but they are on a roll at the moment. Look at this: 4-0 Leicester, 3-1 Brentford, 4-0 Newcastle, 3-0 Aston Villa. They even got the 3-3 result versus Liverpool, made that very tough for Liverpool. 14 goals scored in the last 4 games, up to 5th in the Premier League and in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. And I said this now and I'll say it again: do not write Newcastle out the Carabao Cup, because they won it more than Liverpool. Let's be honest, they do. Liverpool are more likely to rotate. And, Newcastle are a good side. I've always said they can match any team in the league athletically. That's why they cause Tottenham problems, Arsenal problems, Liverpool problems. They've got Man United next. I'm actually worried as a Man United fan. We play Wolves in like 20 minutes, so let's hope Man United win. I don't know how I'm going to feel after this Wolves game. But Newcastle can match anyone in the league athletically. But having players like Tonali and Lewis Hall, who they brought in last summer, really improved the technical ceiling. They're 5th in the league. If they beat us next week, they could go into that top 3 if Forest don't get the points, or no, they could go into 4th. Sorry, if Arsenal ended up dropping points again this week and then they won again next week and also drop points. Probably not, but they are 5th. They are pretty comfortable there. Got a better goal difference than Bournemouth. Deserve to be 5th in the league, I'd say, because they've really picked up recently. They started the season getting points, but not playing that well, but getting the points. Then, the bad performances sort of balanced out, and then they weren't getting the points. The pressure goes on Eddie Howe. And then the way Eddie Howe's gone back to basics, played all his players in the right position, doing what works, and they've looked really good since that Liverpool game, getting the 3 goals, Tonali in midfield, unlocking Bruno Guimarães, unlocking the creativity, Newcastle scoring more, 3 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals. They cannot stop scoring, and it's so annoying that they have to play Man United next when they're good again. But they were fantastic today. Now, Villa going down to 10 men obviously does help out Newcastle a little bit, but I just realised my mic isn't plugged in. It's just unplugged off. So I apologise if the audio glitches out there. So I apologise if the audio is bad. But yes, Villa going down to 10 men is going to help Newcastle. I think had Villa not gone down to 10 men, it'd be more of a game. But even at the points in the game when Villa had 11 men, Tonali was dealing with that well. Even if Newcastle went on the front foot, when Villa was on the front foot, Tonali deals with that well. And you see Newcastle, 22 shots, 3 big chances, 2.62 XG. They were dominant. They won the game. They deserved to win the game. 22 shots, you probably want to score 4 or 5 goals from that. But 3 big chances, 3 goals, that's what you can ask for at the end of the day. I think, even though Villa went down to 10 men, Villa is still a good side. They ran City apart last game. Morgan Rogers, Duran, absolutely ran City apart. Tielemann's been fantastic this season. Anana, they've got a fantastic midfield. They've got fantastic quality. I know that Villa have lost big games to Spurs and Chelsea, and, they couldn't even beat Ten Hag. But, they ran City, out the park last week. But, Manchester City, so bad. It's not an easy game, Aston Villa. It's never going to be an easy game. And, you can argue Ipswich, Leicester, they were easier games, but this wasn't. And Newcastle made it an easy game. And even with 10 men, it's the psychology. They will know they have 10 men, so they'll work harder. And Newcastle could take their foot off the gas, but they didn't. And Newcastle got what I thought was a deserved win. So here are my thoughts. I thought, first of all, the Newcastle press was excellent. Bruno Guimarães, Murphy, Gordon. The press worked well. Villa was struggling to pay out from the back. The high turnovers that Newcastle was winning, that helped them in that game. game and creating a lot of chances from that. And I think Bruno Guimarães' ability to press when he's higher up the pitch and given that license as well is really impressive. Murphy's a little bit wasteful, but he's had a good season. I think Gordon's had a good season. They're getting the goal contributions. But what Newcastle's wingers have more than any other winger in the league is the work rate, the press, the movement, the understanding, the way Eddie Howe has tactically instructed them in the press, but also their ability to athletically follow that. He's got two of the hardest working wingers, Eddie Howe. Bruno Guimarães, fantastic. I think him and Tonali's brought the best out of Bruno, because anyone that's watched Bruno Guimarães, even before he joined Newcastle, knows that his best role is as a number 8, not a number 6, because it's his creativity on the ball, and having Tonali that can cover the ground and it's so much better than they thought out of possession as a 6 gives Bruno Guimarães to press high, that freedom to press high, win back the ball, and Newcastle on the front foot more. Newcastle winning the ball back in high areas. Bruno's got the ability to pick a pass out, whether it's to the transitional runners, whether it's in the high areas, and Newcastle creating more. And Murphy, Gordon, and Isak all contributing for either goals and assists again today. The attack is fine, because I filmed a video about 3 weeks ago of a Newcastle fan, and they were rating their attack, and they put their attack near the bottom because I think they just drew 1-1 to Palace. That Newcastle fan will probably be thinking, do you know what? Our attack is a lot better now, because they've just come alive. I think a lot of it comes from the midfield. I think Villa were very aggressive. They were committing fouls, and I think that the cards were going to come. I do think the red was a bit harsh on Duran. It's a red because what he's done is a red card offence. But I also think, was it intentional? Could he move his legs? It was a bit of that, but I can understand why it's given a red. It is a red card foul, but I also think, in the moment, Joelinton's got like 5 milliseconds to react to that. Tonali, I thought, was fantastic. I think Gordon is man of the match, but Tonali, Gordon, Guimarães were the top 3 today. I think Gordon's just goal, I think that opened up the game, and Villa had to come out, and that allowed more space. I think, Gordon probably man of the match. Did I say Tonali's goal or Gordon's goal? I can't remember. Villa were a little bit of a threat, I think, before they went down to 10 men. Not a massive threat, but I think Tonali nullified that well. And I think with Eddie Howe, he's gone back to basics. He's played everyone in their best position, and Newcastle are rolling. And I understand criticism of Eddie Howe. He sort of sticks with things even if it's not working, and maybe he needs to make changes sooner, he didn't play players like Lewis Hall much last season. But I also think when Eddie Howe's kept getting all these midfield injuries last season, and Tonali's only just come back in, Eddie Howe brought in Tonali and Lewis Hall, and he's not been able to fully implement them until this season now. And they were signings from last year, and he didn't even get any signings in this summer. And I think, he needs backing in January. I generally believe that Eddie Howe gets a lot of injuries and gets back in January, he can be successful at Newcastle. I think criticism is fair. I think he takes a while to change things up, and it wasn't working, and the football was bad. But the reason I felt sorry for Eddie Howe is because I said he got no backing in the summer. Last year they didn't have a good season, and then they brought in no new players. They had all the injuries, which I think not being in Europe has massively helped Newcastle this season. And I think Newcastle, I'm going to be honest, I think Newcastle can get back in the Champions League. I think Europa League, safe bet. I think Newcastle will be back in Europe because they don't have the extra games. I think the fitness could help them at the end of the year. If they invest in January and they don't have problems with injuries, Newcastle can get easily back in Europe for next season, which would give them more funds to invest in the summer and put them back on a good track. But I think Leicester gave them a bit of confidence, Leicester gave them a bit of momentum for sure, but they did very, very well, Newcastle. And I think they've delivered some really good performances in 5 or 6 of their last games. I think Eddie Howe's tactics were spot on. The press, forced Villa into mistakes, but when they went down to 10 men, the patient build up, breaking them down, Tonali's technical ability, Bruno Guimarães' technical ability, because Villa, as I said, are a strong side, and I generally think that Eddie Howe sort of gone back to basics. He's adapted his tactics lately, and he's got that spot on to change it up and recognise that it wasn't working as well. And I think he deserves a bit more credit than he gets, because I think the poor guys had no luck with injuries or backing. Tonali was key, and this is why Tonali is key. These are my notes on Tonali. They're put into bullet point format. Tonali was everywhere. Ground coverage, ability to cut passing lanes, and skill in winning duels impresses me. Tonali does much better off the ball work than I thought. He's there cutting out the passing lanes, covering the ball. He's always there, winning it back, available, and he gives Bruno Guimarães that license to get forward. And he's one of those where his SOFA score rating could be a 7, but he's putting a 9 out of 10 performance from watching him on the eye, because not only does he do the job off the ball, I've always known Tonali as someone that is good at passing the ball, good at carrying the ball, good at receiving between the lines, good in build-up, quite press-resistant, comfortable on the ball. He can do that, and that's something that, a Longstaff would lack. Longstaff has the work rate, he'll work hard, but Tonali's got those legs, he's got that work rate, but he's got the ability on the ball, which makes Newcastle better. really helping in the build-up, and he generally looks so good. These last 5, 6 games, him and Bruno Guimarães have looked so good, and Newcastle controlling the midfield of the games that they're playing in, and they've massively gone up a level. I think he manages the situation brilliantly. I think his positional awareness is good. He protects the back line. He can win back the ball. So even when Newcastle aren't on the front foot controlling the game, Tonali is there. So there's not that gaping hole in Newcastle's midfield, which I think caused them problems last year, which is why they were vulnerable defensively, which was obviously massively caused by injuries. But the trio of Guimarães, Tonali and Joelinton complement each other really well. I think the one big thing is, imagine Elliot Anderson instead of Joelinton. If it wasn't for PSR, I think that midfield three would be fantastic because he's been unbelievable for Nottingham Forest. I said Bruno's been brilliant. Bruno Guimarães is an 8. His best role is an 8. He shows the creativity there. He can create chances. He's getting the goals. I know the goal was ruled out, but he's improved Newcastle's ability to score goals. And when Tonali plays as a 6, Bruno's in his main role. And I think Bruno Guimarães is a world-class player. And if you put a world-class player in the best position and you put them in the best role to maximise their world-class abilities, it's going to take you up a level. You know that you've got 2 world-class players in Bruno Guimarães and Isak. So if you set up your team to get the best out of Bruno Guimarães and Isak, that is what the best thing that you can do. And that's what Newcastle have done with Tonali. And I think he can get the ball between the lines, use his passing to exploit space. You've got runners in Isak, Murphy, Gordon. So he'll get the ball. He can play it into runners. He can play it into space. He's got players that will be drawing up players and creating space. And he's got the ability to pick a pass, win back the ball high and not waste those opportunities up high. And I think his really good passing intelligence, pressing intelligence is really helping Newcastle. And then when you've got things like this, Isak's goal scoring form, he's scored 11 goals in his last 12 games, obviously with 3 versus Ipswich. He's on absolute fire, and it's the confidence. Isak's more confident, Gordon more confident, so they're going to be better in front of goal, and they're going to be better. So you've got Isak looking better, you've got Gordon looking better, you've got Tonali and Bruno Guimarães gelling. The defensive stability, they're better at playing out the back because they've got Lewis Hall and they've got Fabian Schär. There's balance there, and I think that's why Newcastle look a lot better. And it's just annoying that they couldn't have played Man United a month ago. They have to play us now. But Anthony Gordon, man of the match. I think these last 6-7 games after what was a slower start, and I saw people writing Anthony Gordon off really early in the season, which I think is ridiculous. I think he was probably the best left winger in the league last season, and right now he is the best left winger in the league because Rashford can't get in the squad because he's fallen out with the manager. Martinelli's been crap for a while. Son isn't nowhere near his best. I think it's between him and Luis Diaz for best left winger in the league. And Luis Diaz competes with Gakpo. He's been fantastic because his work rate, he can beat his fullback, he can deliver across, he can press, his work rate, he can trap back. That's what you want. He reminds me a bit of Saka in the sense of he can do the defensive side, the off the ball side, the on the ball side, but also the output side. Saka can dribble, Saka can pass, Saka can create, Saka can get goals and assists, Saka can trap back, Saka can win duels, Saka can press, he can adapt tactically, and he can show up in big games. That's exactly what Gordon does. I think he last season was like the only player to get a goal and assist versus every Big Six side. He can get the output, he can get the goals, he can get the assists, but even if he doesn't get the goals and assists, he can impact the game with his carrying, his dribbling, he can create, he can trap back, he can press, he can adapt to different tactical scenarios. And I thought that Gordon was fantastic in today, arguably man of the match. For me, I think he is becoming a top left winger, and he's shown that. And I think he started slow, but I think that's because Newcastle had so many problems behind the attack that it was limiting the attack and how much the attack got the ball, which meant the attack was limited to the creativity side. But now you can see his dribbling, his directness. He can go from outside to in, the transitional play, the runs he makes that players like Bruno Guimarães can feed. And I thought, Gordon was absolutely excellent. I think you've got a fantastic player in Gordon. I think Tonali's a fantastic player. Lewis Hall's a fantastic player. And then Bruno Guimarães and Isak, you're maximising, you're getting the best out of them. And Newcastle have really gone up a level. Newcastle fans, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Bye.